For nearly 10 long years, a strange and unsettling lump near his garden shed had remained an unsolved puzzle for 75-year-old retired farmer Harold Wilson. When he and his wife had first moved into their peaceful suburban home, the mound had been small, barely noticeable, just a slight rise in the earth. It could have easily been dismissed as a simple quirk of the land. But as time passed, Harold noticed something unusual. The lump wasn't staying the same. It was growing. Slowly, season by season, year after year, it pushed its way upward through the carefully tended lawn. At first, Harold told himself it was nothing serious. Maybe just a buried tree stump rotting away beneath the soil. His wife used to joke that he was growing a pet rock. But Harold, with his farmer's instinct and decades of experience working the land, couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. The earth doesn't rise on its own. Something was pressing from below. Finally, after nearly a decade of watching this silent intrusion creep higher into his yard, Harold had had enough. One chilly spring morning, with determination written across his weathered face, he grabbed his old but sturdy shovel and marched toward the mound. Little did he know, he was about to unearth a forgotten secret buried since the Second World War, a secret so dangerous it could have cost him his life. To understand what had been happening beneath Harold's backyard, we must first look at one of nature's most patient and powerful forces: frost heaving. In places with long, cold winters, the soil undergoes a relentless cycle of freezing and thawing. Water trapped underground expands as it freezes, pushing upward with tremendous strength. This force alone is capable of cracking roads, lifting building foundations, and reshaping entire landscapes over decades. But when this natural process encounters a buried object, say a stone or, in Harold's case, a mysterious metal box, things become even more dramatic. Ice crystals form beneath the object, drawing in more water through a process called cryosuction. Over time, this ice grows into a powerful lens that lifts the object ever so slightly closer to the surface. And when spring arrives and the ice melts, the ground fills in underneath with soil and stones, preventing the object from sinking back. It is a slow-motion hydraulic lift, repeated winter after winter, decade after decade. What starts deep below the ground can eventually be pushed up until it becomes visible. That was exactly what had been happening beneath Harold Wilson's quiet backyard. Year after year, nature was slowly dragging a dangerous piece of history back into the light. Harold Wilson was not an ordinary suburban homeowner. Having spent most of his life as a farmer, he had grown attuned to the rhythms of nature. He noticed things others would ignore: the way soil changed color after a rain, the way frost patterns told of moisture beneath, the way plants leaned toward unseen water sources. So when he saw the mound continuing to grow, his instincts told him something hidden was at play. One afternoon, Harold finally gave in to his curiosity. He began digging, expecting to find nothing more than a large rock or perhaps an old tree stump left behind by the previous owner. The first few shovelfuls brought up nothing but soil and clay. For a moment he felt foolish, but then his shovel struck something solid. The sound was sharp and metallic, steel against steel, not the dull thud of stone, not the hollow scrape of wood, but something man-made, buried deep. Harold's heart raced. He cleared away more earth until the outline of a rectangular object took shape. It was a box, a heavy rusted metal box. After much effort, Harold managed to heave the object free from the soil. Covered in rust and earth, it looked like an old military ammunition case. His first thought was that it was nothing more than a discarded relic from decades past, maybe left behind by the home's original owner. But when he pried open the corroded latches, the rusty lid groaned, and what lay inside made his blood run cold. Inside were dozens of aging ammunition rounds, rifle cartridges, and, most terrifying of all, the pineapple-shaped bodies of several World War II hand grenades. The weapons had been buried for nearly 80 years, yet they were still deadly. Some of the grenades looked unstable, their pins rusted, their casings corroded with time. Harold stumbled backward, shaken to his core. The harmless-looking mound that had puzzled him for 10 years was no geological oddity. It was a ticking time bomb from the past. Hands trembling, he fumbled for his phone and dialed 911. Within minutes, his quiet neighborhood was transformed into a scene of flashing lights and urgent voices. Police officers rushed in, evacuating Harold and his wife while establishing a perimeter around the shed. This was no ordinary discovery. This was a matter of life and death. Soon after, a specialized explosive ordnance disposal (EOD) team arrived from a nearby military base. The bomb squad carefully removed the box and its contents, securing each piece with expert precision. For Harold, the moment was both terrifying and surreal. A simple act of curiosity had turned into a dangerous operation involving police, military experts, and the possibility of a deadly explosion in his own backyard. But the bigger question remained. Who had buried the weapons there? And why? Investigators soon uncovered the truth. The first man to own Harold's house, back in the late 1940s, had been a decorated World War II veteran. He had fought in the Pacific Theater, surviving the brutal campaigns that shaped the course of the war. Like many soldiers of his generation, he had returned home to start a family and build a peaceful life. But peace did not come easily. In those days, no one spoke about post-traumatic stress disorder. Veterans were expected to move on, to leave behind the blood, fear, and chaos they had lived through. Yet, for many, the war never truly ended. They carried their memories in silence. It was common for returning soldiers to bring home war trophies, helmets, bayonets, flags, but some carried back far more dangerous souvenirs. Rifles, pistols, even grenades found their way into trunks, attics, and basements across America. For this veteran, the weapons likely symbolized both pride and pain. At some point, he made a decision. Instead of displaying the grenades or keeping them within reach, he buried them deep in his backyard. Perhaps it was a symbolic act, burying the war, burying the soldier he once was. Perhaps it was practical, removing a danger from the home where his children played. Whatever his reasons, the weapons remained hidden, sealed away in silence, until frost heaving and time itself dragged them back toward the surface. As the bomb squad carried away the last of the explosives, Harold stood in his yard, shaken but reflective. The mound that had been a source of mild curiosity for nearly a decade was gone, replaced by a gaping hole in the earth. But the hole was more than just physical, it was symbolic. It represented the buried secrets of the past, the silent scars of war, and the way history has a way of clawing itself back into the present. The grenades had not just been forgotten weapons. They were a soldier's attempt to separate himself from the horrors he had lived through, to shield his family from the shadows of his service. And yet, despite his efforts, those ghosts had risen again, pushed upward by the patience of the earth itself. Harold realized that what he had unearthed was not just a box of ammunition. It was a story, a memory, a reminder that war leaves behind more than medals and parades. It leaves scars, sometimes visible, sometimes buried, but always waiting to be remembered.